Is Miho really a supernatural being? And if yes, what's the nature of her powers? This video answers these and other interesting questions related to Frank Miller's Sin City. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up, it means a lot to me. She cuts quickly, kills quietly. No one will feel a thing unless she wants them to. Probably a falling leaf makes more noise. A little fairy, a little death. Yes, this is how our old acquaintance Dwight McCarthy describes Miho, the deadly protector of Old Town. In the film adaptation of Sin City, she was portrayed by two different actresses. Generally, we don't know much about the past of most characters in Sin City, but Miho is one of those whose past is almost completely unknown. Well, except for one fateful moment in her biography that will change the fate of the entire Sin City, from which we know that at the age of 15, Miho was already a deadly assassin protecting Old Town. Yes, she wasn't yet embodying inevitable death. She would learn a lot in the future, but anyway. Following other stories in Sin City, we may assume that Miho's early years were spent in a part of the city called the Projects, because the way some local gangs kill resembles what we'll see from Miho. At a certain point, she came under the care of the girls from Old Town, and from the context of what Gale and Dwight will say about Miho, we understand another important detail about her biography. It was in Old Town where she mastered her skills to perfection, because Old Town is a training ground. This is echoed in the words of other characters. Miho improves her skills, becoming deadlier each time. In the on-screen story Family Values, her skills will reach a completely new level, but we'll touch on that later. There's a common belief about Miho, also heard from other characters, that she likes to play with her victims like a cat. Well, this is exactly how it went down with Jackie Boy. When killing him, she seemed to tease her prey in some cruel, deadly game. And yes, this is true, but only partially. See, Miho doesn't just play with her victims. She studies them, analyzes them, and invents new ways of killing. She kills Jackie Boy using a means that can't even be called a weapon, and this will definitely be useful for her in the future. Dwight called a clash between Miho and Jackie Boy a training session, and he's right. Since Marv took care of Cardinal Rock, it became too quiet in Old Town for a while. Miho got bored, which is why Jackie Boy's death at her hands looks so sophisticated. By the way, don't forget that during the events of the Big Fat Kill, Marv is already in custody awaiting his death sentence. So we remember that according to Frank Miller's comments, Miho is a supernatural being representing the light side in Sin City, while Kevin represents the dark side. Based on what I was talking about in my previous videos about Sin City universe, Miho and Kevin are far from being the only supernatural characters. But based solely on the author's comments, can we be absolutely sure that Miho is indeed a supernatural character and that she represents the light side? Yes, undoubtedly. The only moment when we saw Miho physically vulnerable was 3 years prior to the events of A Dame to Kill For, when Dwight had her back in that dark alley. In every other respect, Miho is the embodiment of imminent death for her enemies. Her mental and physical powers go far beyond human limits. More than that, as the story progresses, she gets even stronger with no way for us to gauge if there's a limit to her abilities. This reminds us once again that Miho is constantly mastering her skills. For sure, in the film adaptation they were somewhat more exaggerated compared to the source material, same as in Marv's case in fact, but this does not negate the fact that she's a supernatural character in the comic as well. Based on what I have discussed in previous videos about this universe, every supernatural character in Sin City has a supernatural bond with another character. This bond makes them stronger and is, among other things, the source of their powers. Of course, when talking about the nature of Miho's powers, we cannot overlook her supernatural bond with Dwight McCarthy. Yes, if we rely solely on the screen adaptations of Sin City, the otherworldly nature of their bond may seem like a bit of a stretch, but it will not limit ourselves to just movies. Let's go step by step though. One cannot exactly call the story of Dwight and Miho's relationship simple. When Marv brought mutilated Dwight to Old Town, Wendy and Goldie demanded that Dwight leave the city after giving him medical assistance. Then Gale told Miho that 3 years ago it was Dwight who saved her in that dark alley from two gangsters who wanted to attack her from behind. Yes, this was the only time in Miho's life when someone managed to sneak up on her from behind. Upon learning this, Miho, along with Gale, takes Dwight's side and helps him deal with Manute and Ava Lord. At that moment, Miho repaid her debt to Dwight, and during the events of the Big Fat Kill, Miho was already prepared to kill Dwight on Gale's orders when disagreement arose between them. The events of the Big Fat Kill take place shortly after the events of A Dame to Kill For. Yes, Dwight believes that Miho is ready to kill him on Gale's command, and he is not mistaken because she approaches him from behind. However, it is during the events of the Big Fat Kill that we get a glimpse into the true nature of Miho's powers, as well as the nature of their supernatural bond with Dwight. Of course, you remember this moment. It's one of the highlights of the entire franchise after all. Miho saving Dwight from the tar pits. When Rock called Marv a demon and Kevin an angel, he was certainly mistaken. But when Dwight called Miho an angel, blessed by the heavens, he was right on the money. The nature of Miho is that of an angel, to be more precise, a guardian angel. And the scene of saving Dwight fully reflects this. His small, nimble fingers grasped Dwight's hand like steel, finding it in the pitch-black darkness of the tar. That very darkness that's engulfed hundreds of people. This is where their supernatural bond is born. Dwight was not Miho's guardian angel, but from that moment on, Miho became his, because she chose him, just as she chose to be the protector of Old Town. Again, in the movie adaptation it may seem doubtful, but the storyline in Family Values gives a deeper insight into this topic. Gail gave Dwight a task to dig up information on the death of one of Old Town's girls, and throughout the story Dwight is accompanied by Miho, who as usual brings death to all who get in their way. Interestingly, she uses roller skates here. She finds it effective and, of course, amusing. Remember, Miho doesn't like to be bored. She unquestioningly carries out all of Dwight's orders, and Dwight, surrounded by cutthroats who threaten him with torture and death, feels completely safe because his guardian angel is nearby. The guardian angel who, on this night, will take part in the destruction of the upper echelons of a very influential crime family in Basin City. Miho, as usual, represents an unstoppable destructive force, yet still remains graceful, silent, and swift. One of the shocked gangsters who's been observing Miho for a long time calls it magic, and he's not far from the truth. In the story, Miho curls up sleeping on Dwight's lap, almost like a cat, while still maintaining her inhuman vigilance. This scene shows us that now sneaking up on Miho from behind is highly unlikely. It also illustrates the development of the relationship between Dwight and Miho, who now trust each other completely and unconditionally. It's hard to call this love, it's even hard to call it friendship for that matter. It's simply another supernatural bond in her true purpose, which only makes her stronger. And for sure by now you must have noticed that in this story arc the author portrays Miho almost entirely using white, and we already understand what it means. Now I'm aware that calling Miho a guardian angel still sounds somewhat contradictory considering just how brutal she is. But we are talking about Sin City here, a place where the concepts of darkness and light are blurred and relative. Well, light is just one of the shades of dark, a place where the side of light eventually has to turn the handle of the meat grinder called Sin City. But you already know this, and as usual, everything said in this video is just my subjective opinion, my theory regarding yet another character from my favorite Sin City. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. But one way or another, the story of Sin City is not a story of shades of darkness. It's a story telling us that sometimes all you need to solve a problem is a good car with a spacious trunk. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and support it with your activity. It means a lot to me. Bye!